Sonja arose in a place that was far from reality. The blow she had taken to the head had ripped the veil and opened a portal into her subconscious. She had arrived in a prison of her own mind. She tried to find a way out through various meditation practices, before a voice called from the deep, beckoning her to explore further. She felt weak and her sword was heavy and tiresome to swing. She struggled to land her strikes, and when she did, it was unimpactful. How could she ever hope to be victorious in her quest if she couldn't control her own mind and emotions? She struggled through her battles because these were not mere foes, but parts of herself. She continued along the path until she found a rune-laden barrier. This would be her first test. As she walked through the barrier, a rush of anger welled up inside her. It was then that she knew she had to tame her anger, or be consumed by it forever. A giant black panther leapt in her direction, trying to knock her to the ground, but she dodged out of the way. She pulled her sword and stabbed and slashed, the pain from each strike searing through her body as she slowly chipped away at her own weaknesses. She battled with the demon for a night, each strike as painful as the last, and just as important as the next. The years of her previous battles against men and monsters has taught her one thing: determination. She honed in on this one strength she had. She was determined to be victorious. The picture of victory became clear, and she struck the final blow. The path forward was no longer blocked, and she could continue her journey. She paused for a moment, as if to study her own emotions. Anger would no longer rule over her as a chaotic emotion. It had become a tool that she could draw on when she needed. It vanished from sight and took its rightful place in the hierarchy of her psyche. She felt refreshed and filled with confidence after her first victory, and she was ready to continue. The other apparitions of her anger no longer felt the need to attack her. She had found balance, and they no longer needed to assert their dominance. She walked through the open areas of fields and flowers overshadowed by gnarled roots. It felt serene, if just for a moment. The deeper she went and the closer she got to the next arena, the more terror started to grip her. As she approached the ruined barrier, she felt the fear start to crush her. It was such a heavy burden, and she knew she needed to shrug it off. This would be her second test. She calmly walked towards her next adversary, a giant overgrown gorilla with fear, sadness, and terror deep in its eyes. It stood as still as a statue until she drew her sword and provoked it. Then it sprang into action and tried to crush her. It would swipe at the air and bash the ground like an angry toddler whose toy was taken away. She sized it up for just a moment, circling around behind before she delivered the first strike. It cried out and beat its chest as if to assert its dominance, then knocked her to the ground and started to crush her. It used every dirty trick it could, swiping her legs and then bashing straight down. Every moment it could, it tried to assert its dominance over her, but she would not be bested. She had become more comfortable with the pain of fighting against herself. She fought it for the night, stabbing and slashing between the temper tantrums and fits, until she delivered the final blow that would end its reign of terror. She didn't look back or gaze on this one, as it's best to leave fear behind you. She stopped for just a moment to celebrate the victory, when all of a sudden, she had been thrown into an arena with her next challenge, a bullish figure that was not going to allow her to remain in the inner circle. This was loneliness. The fog was thick and heavy and suffocating to say the least. Every time she entered the inner circle, the bull would charge and try to knock her back out. When she stood in the inner circle, she felt comforted, like the warm embrace from a friend. The vow she made when receiving her powers had become twisted and perverted, and ultimately left her with very few friends. She was truly alone. She fought it for some time before realizing that the bull was drawing its power from the inner circle. She had to pull it into the fog, her and the bull fighting and gasping for air while they fought each other, until it finally fell dead. She wasn't sure if she could claim the final blow, or if it simply died from the suffocating strength of the loneliness that surrounded the inner circle. It didn't matter. From this day forward, she would surround herself with allies. It was time for her final test. A devil stood before her, and she must defeat it. She stood before the Dream Master, a champion of her own mind. He congratulated her on her great victories before sending her back to the realm of reality. She awoke in the arena where it had all started. The mysterious warrior who was ultimately responsible for sending her to the dream realm had all but disappeared. Just piles of bodies remained as a reminder that she was even there. Questions of who she was and what she was doing here swirled through Sonja's mind. Then she spotted something in the corridor ahead. A dimly lit candle lay on a crate. There was a note stuck to the wall with a dagger in it. It read, "Darling, sorry for the lump on your head. You were in my way. Friend or foe, I treated you fairly, sparing your life. If we meet again, I hope you'll remember that. I left some goods in the crate for you. A peace offering, if you will. Signed, Phoenix." She gathered the items out of the crate before finally making her way out of the wine cellar.